This is a series of short explorations into lava and volcano-related petroglyph and pictograph sites. Each one is going to have the same opening, so if you've already seen this, just hop forward to the main content. Every single mound on the landscape that you can see is a mini volcano explosion. This entire portion of the desert is one enormous volcano erupting under each of these little mounds various times throughout history, starting millions of years ago and most recently about 10,000 years ago. And they're called cinder cones, but typically a cinder cone is when it's a dry explosion of cinders, right? It's like kind of like a dry rock explosion. But this entire landscape, the ground under my feet is all volcanic rock. This was a huge, magnificent quantities of lava flowed across this landscape at one time. Look at that black earth. So possibly when these smaller eruptions happened, they were cinder-like explosions, little bursts, but at one time this was more than little bursts. This was the result of huge volcanic activity that flowed lava and crusted the entire portion of this desert, the Mojave Desert, with lava. And underneath what we can see are lava tubes. As I sit inside this lava tube, I'll tell you the story of Grandfather Fire. So the story of Grandfather Fire. We're sitting in the belly, in the home of Grandfather Fire. If you ever have an opportunity to go see like a museum exhibit of Teotihuacan, for example, you're gonna get a perfect iteration of what Grandfather Fire is. Anywhere in the Mesoamerica, there's idols to Grandfather Fire. A lot of times they'll have like a censer on top where fires were burning and this bull on his head. He's really old looking. But Grandfather Fire is a theme that's also universal in the Aztecan world. So Grandfather Fire is that primordial creative fire that's deep in the earth that brings up the volcanic fire, the belly, the creative force of fire. That's Grandfather Fire. He existed long before the sun. He created, depending on the story, the people created the sun, but the people are also our ancestors. Our ancestors include Grandfather Fire, so you see how this works. Grandfather Fire started fire. The sun could not exist without Grandfather Fire. So we are in the grand temple of the greatest deity we have. The water that flowed under the earth is an equal creator with Grandfather Fire, and of course the earth itself. So we are experiencing pretty much all of these when we're underground. We've got the underground water, we're within the earth, we're in the body of what Grandfather Fire created. So we're going to go look at the pictographs and petroglyphs that Native people who shared these understandings of how earth was created memorialize these stories on the rocks. Last night was the official winter solstice, plus it was the Saturn and Jupiter became conjunct, forming the brightest object in the sky, something that hasn't happened for 800 years. What an amazing constellation of epic events happening all at the same time to celebrate the rebirth of the sun. So today I'm back out on the trail to continue our little series of lava-inspired petroglyphs, ritual imagery related to celebrating, you see this? Ah, there it is. Grandfather Fire, who lives deep in the earth and makes the volcanoes. When I look at these few images together, I have an impulse to say that I think they're Mojave imagery, not Paiute or Ancestral Puebloan, which would have been two other groups out here at the time, because they look about the same age, and that kind of that crisscross image is a pretty common Mojave image. That kind of knotted string looking one in the center does look a little bit more ancestral Puebloan. So I don't know, maybe there's a combination of things here on the rocks. Here's a couple examples. This is a Mojave face tattoo that looks very much like that X kind of thing. I don't think it's an X. I think it's more of an image of like a cup facing up and a cup facing down, sort of like a yin yang perspective. And this dots with chains. This I don't know what to say. Chain of dots. It shows up a lot among the ancestral Puebloans of Virgin Anasazi. And here's an example of that. An example of one that appears really nearby, or a few that appear very nearby. The sequence of dots shows up a couple of different ways in the Virgin Anasazi territory that became overlapped by the Southern Paiute over time. And so I'm trying to parse out which is which, but this one on the left, this other example, is one very similar that shows up on the Virgin River. And then the example on the right is a more elaborate example that actually appears geographically between the image you see on the left and the one in the middle. The one in the middle is more in the central Mojave Desert. This is the second site in the lava series that I've seen where the petroglyphs are on the north-facing side. The sun is on the south, on the other side of the rock outcropping. And that is just so strange. As I said in one of the other videos, in the years that I've been visiting sites like these, there's only been a handful of times where the petroglyphs are not facing the sun. I gotta look into this because it seems to be a unique trait of these lava outcropping petroglyphs here in this region of the Mojave Desert. So I wonder, I really want to know more about what that's about. This is graffiti. This is not ritual imagery. And I don't care who wants to argue with me about, oh, well, you know, other people, just because they were hundreds of years ago, they're allowed to carve on the rocks. It means just as much to me as it does to them. And here's the difference. I mean, maybe it's not different, but here's why I think it's different. I think this is made for fun, and those other images are explained through the ethnic lens through which they came, that imagery, rock imagery, is a kind of portal. Okay, so if you see an image on a rock, it isn't something that came from your mind that was put there haphazardly. It is a spirit in and of itself that brings you into the earth in some way, the surface on which it's created, or brings something out of the earth, something interdimensional. It's an interdimensional form of communication. It is not just for fun. It is not just to waste time, although I'm sure that some people did just waste time carving on rocks. But when you've got this kind of assemblage in a place like this, it's not a wasting time kind of thing. These are ritual images that you see over and over again at ritual kind of sites. So that's my graffiti diatribe for the day. I've been coming along the edge of this outcropping, and I come to this little alcove, this little cave kind of structure, and I feel like I'm being asked to go up and over toward the sun here. Yeah, I'm gonna go for it, because as I come around the side here, it's a bunch of lichen covered rocks that way. It doesn't have the vibe. It's not there. I'm gonna go back over and see if there's something up and over where the rocks wanted me to go. This is beautiful. Up over the petroglyphs, got this nice flat plateau of nothing but black rock. Gorgeous. And here we go. This is what I thought I might find. Cleared spaces. Look at this ground. As rocky as can be. No reason for there to be cleared spaces unless one was just cleared. It's cleared. Like dance space, ceremonial space. Perfectly smooth. No way it could be that way if these rocks hadn't been removed from the surface. Every place else looks like that. And there's another cleared space over here. Oh, I wish I had a drone. That would be cool to rise above this. See if there's patterns. You know, I haven't read about that. If there are like geoglyph kind of structures out in this part of the Mojave. I know they are in the Mojave for sure. I just never heard of them here. I'm standing right in the middle of one of the cleared circles, and I'm trying to look around. Like, I'm wondering if I stand here, what I can see on the around me, if there's any rocks that stand out particularly as an eye line that I'm supposed to direct my eyes to. And it's really flat, featureless on this particular butte. But when I look, so then I turn my eye to the landscape, right? The horizon landscape, and what I'm looking directly at is a caldera, a cinder cone volcano that has I don't know what to say, like a crack, concave, like a V shape, directly, pointing directly here. I don't know what it means, but it's, it seems relevant. And it's really the only landscape feature that is prominent and different, I feel like that mountain must talk to this site in some way. A couple more small cleared spaces. And there's that mountain. I'm heading toward it. I want to try to get a good photo of it that's really clear. Some of these volcanic rocks are so beautiful. Look at this one. It just looks like taffy. You can tell, you can completely see how it was at once liquid form. This one too. They look like they're like barely dried silly putty. Or, raw cake batter or pancake batter. When it just starts bubbling, they look so liquid. They're so fluid. So there's that caldera. You are not going to believe me when I tell you. I swear to God, you're going to think I'm making this up. So I decided to stand on this. I'm standing on, all right, hold on. So see how it's all flat? I found this kind of in the middle of the plateau here, this taller rock outcropping, this kind of really huge boulder right in the middle of everything. It's the only one that's tall. Okay, so I chose to stand right on that. I'm going to do now, and I got out my star chart app, which has option to make a setting. Like you can say, show me where the sun's going to rise on, you know, whatever day of whatever year, and it has a huge, like thousands of years span, so you can really do some good forensic research into archaeoastronomy with this app. So I thought, okay, well, let's start with the summer solstice, right? Because I'm thinking that the sun's really high. I mean, the sun, you know, it's really high on the horizon, and this is the winter, and that looks pretty far north from where I stand. Like, this is what I'm thinking. So I go through all the major sun events. I go through the summer solstice, both equinoxes, and the sun's like rising too far north of that caldera over there. So then I put it on the winter solstice. I set it to the winter solstice sunrise, and if you would not believe it, if it doesn't come, the sun rises right behind that caldera today, the winter solstice, which I am here right now. If I was here at sunrise standing on this rock looking at that caldera, the sun would have risen behind it. I kid you not, I'm not making it up. That happens here. That's what this site is. That's what this site is about, is standing here on sunrise on winter solstice. Now, sunset, maybe. You know what? I should get out my star chart app. I'm guessing the sun sets right there in that lowest saddle. Look at that. Horizon, blah, 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 blah. I bet the sun sets right there in that saddle. And I'm going to find out right now. I will admit if I'm wrong, okay? So I'm going to go check it out, and I'll come back and tell you. Yes, I was right. It does. You know what? I challenge you to come out here and prove me wrong, because I am not wrong. It absolutely happened. The sun sets right there. The sun on the winter solstice rises from the spot I'm standing on here, right at the highest mound. I'm going to go ahead and call it an altar on this flat volcanic plateau. When I stand here and I look at that caldera, that is exactly where the sun rises on the winter solstice. And that is exactly where the sun sets on the winter solstice. I did good research. This is exciting for me. This is what I live for. This is the juice I live on. Amazing. I'm so happy you were here with me to work this out with me. This is fun. Okay, now we know. Put it on the map. Interesting. Thanks for joining me. Hope it was fun. It was for me. I'm still having fun.